What's going on, y'all?
What's up, fellas?
My bad, I'm muted. What's up, y'all? Welcome to a special episode of Broad Street Blitz Take. Whoops. Hold on. I'm sorry, y'all. All over the place. Welcome to Blitz Take Leader Edition with your boy Kukat Connor, our special guest Ed. How you doing, Ed?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing good. And the leader of this show, Leader Johnson. What up, Leader?
What's up, man? What's going on? Ed Kratz here, man. Sports Illustrated Eagles writer, man. We're going to get down to it. Eagles season, good to come in champions. Feels real good, man. Real good, man.
Yeah, doesn't get any better than that, right?
Yep.
Winning
So
the
go ahead,
Lombardi
Leader.
Trophy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So go ahead, Leader. It's your show, and it's our first ever state of the Philadelphia Eagles. Start us off.
Well, we coming here. We are here with
Leader.
Ed Kratz. One of the guys that got me mentored in this game is sports writing, man. One of the best out here, man. And like we said, it's good to be champions, and it's good to play the Cowboys the first game of the season. It's going to be something. It's going to be maniacs, insane. Their first game. I expect the city to be on fire around that time, man.
Yeah.
And that one thing I want to get into is it's a lot of trade rumors. A lot of trading rumors. Of course, we know it's Howard. So we know he's going to be involved in anything that's out there. I want to know specifically, have you heard anything? I know the Jalen Ramsey confirmed that the Jalen Ramsey, they actually went out and actually wanted the trade for him. But people like Kyle Pitts, Kyle Pitts, Trey Hendrickson, we already know he's out there, but are they really going after those guys? Well, who are they really going after in the trade discussion?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of been an off season of sort of fiscal restraint for Howie Roseman. He's given out 1-year contracts. I don't think any of them have been more than $3.5 million. So, when you start looking at some of these names that are out there, you mentioned two, Jalen Ramsey, Kyle Pitts. I know that one betting site has the Eagles as the favorites to land either TJ Watt or Trey Hendrickson. Listen, I don't think Howie Roseman's just going to wake up in June this month and say, hey, let's just forget all about this fiscal constraint stuff and let's go land us a big horse, so to speak. It's nice to talk about, players that could join the Eagles, but, they went through this 2-month spring workouts, these OTAs and this mini camp. And, I think they liked what they saw, as far as the edge goes with Josh Uche and Azeez Ojulari. They were really expecting big things from Jalix Hunt and Nolan Smith. So I'm not sure how he's going to pull the trigger on any of these trades. They have Dallas Goedert. You mentioned Kyle Pitts. I love Kyle Pitts. He's a Philadelphia product. Hasn't really lived up to the billing of being a top 5 pick yet. He's got really great wide receiver traits, and maybe, you transition him to the outside or work him in the slot. I don't know. But, again, they have Dallas Goedert. I really like some of these younger tight ends they have on the roster, like a Nick Muse has shown up pretty big. Actually was a 7th-round pick of the Vikings. So, Jalen Ramsey, you mentioned him. I thought Keely Ringo, I thought he had a really, really good OTAs. We saw 2 OTA practices as reporters, and we watched the mini camp. And, that mini camp from Keely Ringo, I thought that might have been his best practice as an Eagle ever. He was very good, very aggressive, broke up a pass in the end zone and a red zone drill. So I just don't see Howie breaking away from this strategy of, hey, we got to save cash to sign Jalen Carter, maybe Nolan Smith, Quinyon Mitchell down the road, Cooper DeJean. It's fun to think about, and it'd be great. These guys would be great additions. These are Pro Bowl caliber players. But right now here, early June, I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah. And now you said the recent OTAs for Keely, we talk about recent OTAs, right? Not like last year, because he's been shining for a long time. So he's been good recently, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm talking about just this past May and then June. And then Tuesday, June 10th was the mini camp. And, like I said, I think that was Keely's best practice ever as an Eagle. And I love the kid's size. He's got great speed. And remember, when he got drafted, he was 20 years old. So he's still really young in this game. He's only 22 years old. And he's had the benefit of having kind of on-the-job training in the NFL, adjusting to the speed. He's great on special teams. Had 8 special teams tackles as the gunner, one behind Oren Burks last year. Burks obviously no longer here. But, Keely has kind of had this baptism under fire. He could have stayed at Georgia, could have stayed in for another year or two, probably been a higher pick than a 4th rounder where the Eagles selected him. And I'm really high on him. I think he could be the guy that's going to start opposite Quinion Mitchell.
And that's what I said. My surprise guy last year was Nolan Smith. I said, watch when he come through.
That was going.
Good. And then Keely Ringo's mine this year. Like, he was number 4 overall out of high school. The surprise thing about that, the second guy to him as a cornerback out of high school was Eli Ricks. So it was wow. They got good. The guy can run a 4.3. He can 40-inch vertical. I mean, that's really an amazing secondary if you look at the talent, like physical talents. Really different secondary. What do you think about Sidney Brown? Like to me, I think he'll get that job. I think he was just good coming out of college, and I think he'll get that job.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not as convinced maybe as you that he'll get that job. I think, one of the issues is he was drafted before Vic Fangio got here. I'm not sure Fangio trusts him. I know last year, he had a hard time coming back from the ACL rehab. He had a concussion. He really wasn't fully healthy. So he lost, his place on the depth chart to Tristan McCollum. And McCollum was the first guy up when there was whether it was an in-game injury to, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson or Reed Blankenship, it was Tristan that went in. So, I think not being here when Fangio was here might hinder him winning that job. I think Fangio really wanted Drew Makuba, who the Eagles took in the 2nd round out of Texas. And, they've kind of been splitting first-team reps during the OTAs and the minicamp. Now, obviously, it's very early. We'll see, how that plays out once training camp arrives at the end of July. But, I think they probably want Makuba to win that job. If he's ready, I don't know. But he looks like he's a pretty good fit for this Fangio scheme. And, listen, I like Sidney Brown a lot as a person. Great kid. You root for guys like that. But I'm not as convinced leader as you might be that the job's going to be his. It could be. He certainly took charge as a rookie. He had that 99-yard interception return against the Cardinals on New Year's Eve. Started a couple games, was kind of finding his way in the NFL. And it's really unfortunate that he tore that ACL in the last regular season game up on that crappy turf in the Meadowlands for the Giants. But it's interesting. Had he stayed healthy, you wonder if C.J. Gardner-Johnson would have been signed last year. They might have just rode with Sidney Brown. It's all water under the bridge at this point. Now Sidney has to build himself back up and get into into Vic Fangio's trust, build that trust with Fangio again. And we'll see if he can do that.
To capitalize off what you said about Keely Ringo, he was a Pro Bowl alternate as a special teams player last year.
Yeah.
You looking? I wanted to ask you. To me, I think is the best battle, and it's a safety battle. You're talking about it. Lewis Singh. Are they confident in him? Now they've traded for him when Fangio was there. You're talking about Fangio. Are they confident in Lewis Singh?
Yeah, they brought him in. I think they signed him off of the Buffalo Bills practice squad late last year, so he's got himself a Super Bowl ring. He had a pretty serious injury, when he was with the Vikings, former first-round pick of Minnesota a couple of years ago. We'll just have to wait and see, how that injury. I think it was a knee. To me, he didn't do that much in the spring. Like, I think they're kind of bringing him along slowly. They want to build up that strength, build up that confidence. But another good kid, you talk to him in the locker room, really, really solid person. Another Georgia player, right? Came from Georgia like so many of these defensive guys did.
He was good, man. He was good.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be a slow process for Lewis Cine. The work I saw him get, he looked a little slower, a little tentative, which is to be, understood. But yeah, he could be ready for a role at some point. I'm not sure how he's going to look once training camp comes.
Okay, so you saying Makuba? They definitely like Makuba.
They thinking, love Makuba. Yeah,
they love Makuba. They love Makuba.
Yeah, and I love that name, man. Makuba. That's a cool name, if you ask me, man.
He was good at Clemson. He used to play at Clemson. He was good at Clemson.
He was Jeremiah Trotter's roommate at Clemson. They roomed together for a while, and then he transferred to Texas. But Trotter and Makuba know each other pretty well.
Go ahead, Bouquet.
Yeah, for me, if you guys can hear me, sorry about that. If you for me, leader can stick to the defense side of the ball. For me, I'll stick to the offense side of the ball, and this guy.
Acknowledge me.
Love that.
Talk to me about QB1, how he's been looking in OTAs and mandatory mini camp so far.
Yeah, Hurts looked really good to me this spring for sure. Last year he did not look good at all, to be honest. He looked unsure of where to go with the football, and he talked about how 95% of the offense was new with Kellen Moore coming in last year, and it showed. And I thought that was one of my big storylines, heading into camp last year was how's Jalen going to come back and look? Is he going to be able to put what to me was sort of a bad spring behind him? And he sure answered that question pretty well. I mean, Super Bowl MVP is where he ended up, but this year it seems like he's more confident with what this offense is, and it helps that Kevin Patullo, their new offensive coordinator, was kind of promoted from within. That usually hasn't worked out for offensive coordinators promoted from within. Brian Johnson was promoted from within as an OC. He got canned. There was a couple other guys that got canned along the way after being promoted in-house. So we'll see how it works out. But, Jalen's talked about how the transition is smoother this year, not only because he's familiar with Patullo. He came in here with Sirianni, when they got the job in 2021. He's talked about how he's gotten used to having so many different coordinators that it seems like it's kind of a seamless transition now to go from one to another. Concepts are a little different, but he's kind of getting a grasp. He's been through so many of these changes that he's getting used to it. So I think that showed on the field. I thought Jalen had a really strong spring. If the ball hit the ground more than 5 times, I didn't see it. I mean, he looked like he was on the money. He was leading guys well. He was hitting them in stride, threw a couple really nice deep balls in one practice we watched to Dallas Goedert, and then another beautiful pass to Devontae Smith. I think Jalen Hurts, he's maturing. He's 26 years old now. He's not this young kid that came into the league 5 years ago or whatever. Yeah, 5 years ago. He came in 2020. So, I think all of these things is going to allow Jalen Hurts to have, maybe, I think this might be his best year yet, to be honest with you. I think because defenses are going to try to take away Saquon, and Jalen's going to have to beat them with the pass game. And I think he's fully equipped to do that.
Yep. One thing about the quarterback, who was the quarterback coach,
leader,
and you're looking at him, but Andy Reid was too, but those are different guys, right? But Patullo, he actually was he helped Kellen Moore with the offense. That was different from what Brian Johnson did coming in. He didn't help Shane Steichen with the offense. He didn't help Nick Sirianni at all, really, with the offense. Not like Patullo, right? And we getting that part.
Yeah, I mean, I think Patullo had his fingerprints on some of the stuff that went on in the past game. I think him and Kellen Moore really worked well together last year. Those two guys kind of bounced ideas off of each other. And I thought maybe there was a chance Patullo would go to New Orleans to work with Kellen Moore in some capacity. But, Kellen ended up bringing the Eagles quarterback coach with him, Doug Nussmeier, who those two guys have been working together for like the last 10 years, every stop. of the way. So they have a really close relationship. So he brings Nussmeier to New Orleans to be his OC, and that's good for the Eagles. Now they can stay within house. Nick and Kevin know each other very well. Nick talks about how Patullo has talked him off the ledge, at certain points during a game when Sirianni wants to do something or call a play, and Kevin's like, wait a minute, let's try this. Let's set that up with this play. So, Patullo's got a hand in it. He's never really called plays before, so that'll be interesting to see how he adjusts to that. But all the players talk about what a great teacher he is, what a great communicator he is, how he's able to lead a room and go effortlessly from room to room, from quarterback room, running back room, receiver room, lineman room. He goes into every room and he feels real comfortable in each one.
Right here on Blitz Tech, we was talking about we do positions breakdowns last week. We did the defensive line, a little bit of edge rusher. I want to talk about the offensive line, and South is the best in the league. Yeah, I mean, when you bring remember Vitae comes, all of a sudden he's good. Then you look at Andre Dillard, he was going bad. Then boom, Fred Johnson comes, boom. It's like he's good. Now it seems like the coaches were listening to him. They wanted to feed him this year. They got 3 guys. They got Miles Hinton, got Drew Kendall, and Cameron Williams is talented. They got them both, all 3 of them drafted.
Yeah.
Then you look at Holland Pierce. Holland Pierce, I'm saying it. Holland Pierce, that's one guy I'm looking at to definitely look out for him. He's 6'8", man. 6'8". This guy can really, really play, man. I'm telling you right now. Don't be surprised he make the team. They got other guys on there. I mean, this is a Kendall Lamb. They signed him. They got Matt Pryor. They really went deep. They got some experience. How do you think of this room? The whole, like, what have you been hearing? Anybody out the offensive line room you've been hearing specifically been doing good that could come up?
Yeah, offensive line and defensive tackles, those are 2 difficult positions to kind of evaluate during the spring because it's mostly 7-on-7 work. The O linemen are over on the side field working with Stout. The D linemen are over on another part of the field working with Clint Hurt. But when they come together, very rarely they don't hit. There's no pads. It's pretty full steam ahead, so there is contact. But it's still hard to evaluate these guys. You mentioned Holland Pierce. He's got great experience. He started 50 games at Rutgers. He bounced between the left and the right side. I mean, that's fantastic. We'll see once it's going to be a fun summer to watch these big offensive linemen. Elaine Johnson used that word when we asked, how are these young guys coming? He goes, they're big. He goes, when I'm the smallest guy in that tackle room, that's serious stuff. So, it's going to be fun to watch Hinton, Williams, and Pierce kind of battle it out. All 3 of those guys aren't going to make the 53-man roster. There's no room for that type of depth, unfortunately, but they'll learn their lessons from Stoutland and they'll put them into use, and whoever does it the best in the preseason games and in training camp is going to win a spot on the 53. The guy that doesn't, or the 2 guys that don't, maybe all 3 don't. I don't know. But whoever doesn't, they're going to try like crazy to get them to the practice squad and continue developing them and getting them ready for maybe a future role. Nobody better in the business than Jeff Stoutland, molding guys, into quality offensive linemen. He can only do so much, though. It's up to what these guys want to, learn too. It's not a one-way street. These guys have to be receptive to what he's teaching them. They have to have thick skin for when he's critical of them, and he is. You watch him coach, and boy, he'll drop many F-bombs, during practice. I saw him unload on Drew Kendall, and Kenyon Green during one practice. The 2 of them were trying to surface blocks. I don't know which one was getting his fire, maybe both. But, you have to tell yourself, hey, man, he's just trying to get me better. It's nothing personal. He wants me to be better. And I love Kendall. I think he'll be the backup center. If Cam Jurgens can't start the season because of his back, I think he will. But if he can't, Drew Kendall will be the starter at center.
That's big. That's big. I was before we get to the last subject, I wanted to say one thing. Looking at the offensive line, that's another guy, Kenyon Green. I mean, goodness, he was so highly touted coming out. I mean, this guy was really good. If Stoutland gets his hands on this guy, I'm telling you, I know Tyler Steen is good. I know he's good. You can go to tackle, play guard. Kenyon Green is something different. Like, if he gets his hands on Kenyon Green's talent, and he always gets the best out of anybody that comes in there. Like that's the one thing Stoutland does. He's gonna, if you're good, Stoutland's gonna get whatever's good out of you. Like he's good at that. But Kenyon Green can be an All-Pro type player.
Yeah,
I
but it's
wonder.
up to Kenyon Green too. It's up to Kenyon Green, right? He has to be able to want to be that. Stoutland can only lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? The old cliche. So he's going to have to want to drink from what Jeff Stoutland's pouring him to become that type of player.
Before you go, leader, before you give our final thoughts and stuff, leader, let me ask this, because I asked this from my guy, One Trey Rock. I asked this from my girl, Simone Staley. And I want to ask this from Ed when it comes to Nakobe Dean and Jahan Campbell, because, these are injury guys right now. They haven't practiced in OTAs and mandatory minicamp. I asked Trey this. He said he was good. He was at One Trey Rock's coaching practice. Simone was at the girls' festival at the link. She said he was fine. So I'm going to ask the guy who was at the Nova Gear complex this question. Nakobe Dean, Jahan Campbell, how they looking?
Well, they're not doing much. I'll tell you that. And the Eagles take this kind of situation very slowly. I kind of compared Jahan Campbell's situation to Cooper DeJean last year. Remember, Cooper DeJean missed most of training camp with a hamstring, and then they didn't bring him right back into the games. They waited until after the bye week to deploy him, and had a fantastic year. But the Eagles, that's what they do. They take these situations slowly. They're not here for the short term, and these guys are young players, 20, 21, 22 years old. They're looking at the long-term picture with guys like Jahan Campbell and even Nakobe Dean to an extent, even though this will be his fourth year. But they're not going to rush Jahan Campbell into anything. They're going to take their time. Fangio, when asked about him, thought he would be back in August. Now, there's 30 days or 31 days in August. He didn't say if it would be August 1st or August 29th or the middle of the month. He just said August, and that's a wide range. So depending on when he comes back, I'm not sure he'll have much of a role early on, which will be interesting because Nakobe Dean won't be ready for the start of the season. That patellar tendon injury is a very difficult injury for players to come back from. I talked to him after the Super Bowl when they won down in New Orleans, and he told me he's going to come back better. He's just not sure when that's going to be, but he's going to be a better player when he comes back. I'm hoping he's back by by October. I'm hoping he just misses 3 games at most, or 4 at best. But it's going to be a tough injury. He looks good. When I saw him at the Super Bowl, he didn't have the wheelie with him. He didn't walk with any kind of cane or anything like that. He was walking, which is pretty remarkable for after, just having surgery a couple weeks before on a patellar tendon. He's been at camp. He's been watching from the sidelines. There's no brace on the knee, but he's also not doing any running. So it's going to be a slow build with Nakobe and Jihad. I'm not sure exactly how quickly he's going to be ready, but again, they're playing the long game here with these guys. They're not playing the short game. They're going to give them time and make sure they're all ready to go when it's time for them to come back.
Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead, leader talk.
I wanted to ask you one thing about the Jahi Alexander rumors. Of course, any guy that's available is going to be on the Eagles board, imaginary even. So are they even making the pitch toward him? What are you hearing about that particular rumor?
Yeah, I mean, again, right now in June after the spring workouts, I think they like what they've seen from Killy Ringo, from Adoree Jackson. I think Adoree Jackson's going to play a pretty big role on this team in some capacity. Eli Ricks is there. I've liked Mac McWilliams. I think he might be able to be a factor, the rookie 5th-round pick. I think he could be a factor too. So listen, Jair Alexander is a great, great player, no doubt about it. But first you have to make sure he's healthy. And is he willing to play through injury? How serious have some of these injuries been? The Eagles talk about it all the time. How many times do we see Eagles play hurt? Look at that Super Bowl. Cam Jerkins comes in with a back injury. Landon Dickerson needs knee surgery. Those dudes played through it, man. They're tough. They're not sitting out. They're not nursing these injuries. I want to see if Ojulari can do that. He's had some injuries. You wonder, hey man, listen, we're here to win a Super Bowl, dude. Like, you got to pull your weight. If you can walk, you can make, play 80% of yourself, then get your butt out there. And that's what you don't know about Jair Alexander. You would think he'd be a motivated player. He's probably going to have to take a one-year contract. Philadelphia has done great with players on one-year contracts. They bring them in, they let them prove themselves, they give them a fair opportunity, and then the Eagles will either sign them back like they did with Zach Bond, or they'll let them go. But at least they had the chance to prove themselves. So, I'm not sure he's on speed dial at this point. But certainly if he's healthy and he's committed and he's willing to come in and say, yeah, I'll give you 17 games, and then whatever happens after that, I'll fight through whatever it is that's nagging me. I won't be a malingerer. I'll play, and I'll take 10 million for 1 year so I can prove myself. Then there's a chance. But again, I'm not sure it's that great of a chance.
I think so too. I think you're right on that, because Keely Ringo and guys, they're ready to go for the future.
Yeah.
But the Jalen Ramsey part, only reason I hear that and I'm listening to it because he played with Fangio, and he also said he would participate. He wanted to be like Charles Woodson. He would play safety. So I'm thinking they might do a 1-year deal and then be ready for Sidney Brown and give him a lower contract. You let a veteran play in front of you, then you give him a 2-year or 1-year prove-it deal, Brown or Ringo, or to see what they, so they want to sign the contracts. So I don't think they're going to go real hard for anybody. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you, the pass rushers.
Yeah. Don't
you think they're better this year? They're like this better. Last year we came in kind of slow before we started putting the pressure, but they got a lot of guys, even Mondon Jr. and the guy Antoine Powell Ryland. Like, they got those guys with Uche, and they got better, more pass rushers now. And Ty Robinson, I'm hearing good things about him. And what about Moro? What is he doing? What is Moro Jones?
Yeah, listen, all those guys have talent. All those guys can contribute, in my opinion. I saw Ty Robinson batted down a ball at the line of scrimmage late in the mini camp on Tuesday, and he's just a big, moosey-looking guy, man, strong. I certainly think he'll have a role in that defensive line. And I think you mentioned some other names. You wonder about Zach Bond. He came in as a pass rusher. He was an outside guy with the Saints. He got here, and Fangio's like, no, you're going to play inside linebacker. Bond went to Fangio and said, hey, man, when am I going to get a chance to rush the passer? And he says, you're a linebacker. You just get used to playing linebacker. But you never know. I mean, listen, you mentioned Ojulari, you mentioned Uche, guys on 1-year deals, prove-it deals, like we talked about with Alexander. They're in here to prove that they can play and turn this season into a bigger contract somewhere else. They're young guys, 27 years old. This isn't the end of their careers. They don't want this to be the end of their career. They want to try to make money. And so you think they're going to be highly motivated. Now, listen, if the Eagles feel like they need help or whatever the situation is, Fangio might have to get creative. He might have to roll Jalen Carter out there on the outside for a couple reps instead of playing tackle, or put Moro Ajomo on the edge because Moro Ajomo is a little light. Fangio talks about how he's not a real heavy guy. It's harder for him on the inside. So maybe Ajomo goes outside. These are just outside the box possibilities, as we go through summer training camp and see what they have. But this is a defense leader in Cool Cat. When you look at it, it's not one guy getting 15 to 18 sacks. They had a guy like that in Hassan Reddick, but last year's sack leader was Josh Sweat, who had 8.5 sacks, and they won the Super Bowl. So I'm not sure their defensive philosophy is, let's have a superstar edge rusher like a Trey Hendrickson or a J.J. Watt that can get us 20 sacks, because we have guys that can get 8 sacks, 7 sacks. Nolan Smith gets 6 sacks. Jalen Hunt gets 6. Listen, I think Jalen Hunt, and I wrote about this, I think he's going to have a double-digit sack season, man. This guy was impressive in the spring. He's got a great attitude, and I think he could be, you mentioned your breakout player leader. I think Jalen Hunt could be the breakout leader for me this season. So, I think they have enough. But again, a little too soon. We'll see what happens in July and August. But I like what they have. I don't think they need that big 18 to 20 sack producer like a Watt or Hendrickson has.
Okay, before we get you out of here, man, I want to talk about the schedule. Let's just go. Very tough schedule. I said 15-2. I said they're going to lose to Green Bay and they'll lose a 1 game to Washington. I think that those. I just think they got. You can't predict the 17-0. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But they the team, they can beat anybody. They can beat any. They're not really. You're going to have to figure them out. You're going to have to figure they have the running back and the offensive line. I think will be better. Everybody has extra years, and not like older players. Like in 2017, a lot of these guys were ticking down. They weren't. These guys are young. They're ascending. So I'm thinking, no question, 15-2. What do you think about their record?
Well, that's what I love about you, leader, is you're just such an optimistic, positive person, man. I mean, really, and you don't see that a lot, obviously, but that I love that. And 15-2. See, it's hard for me to do that because it's like, man, that's a big number, 15 wins. But would you have said 18-3 last year? I mean, that's what they were when you count the 4 playoff wins. And that's crazy. I never would have said they're going to go 18-3 and win the Super Bowl. So, yeah, listen, 15 wins is doable. You need a lot of, you have to stay healthy, obviously, right? You have to, be able to overcome adversity at some point during the season, because at some point adversity strikes. You have to be able to overcome whatever it is that hits you in the face. The Eagles did a good job of that last year. They had good depth. Will they still be as hungry as they were last year? I like the fact that they have so many new pieces on defense that they brought in, because now these guys are hungry. Adoree Jackson, he wants to win a Super Bowl. Azeez Ojulari, all these guys they brought in, they haven't won the Super Bowl yet. So there's your hunger. I love the offense. It's hard for me to go 15-2, leader. I'm thinking 12-5.
Hold on, let me pull up this. I know we gotta let you go, Ed, but here's the schedule.
Yeah. Listen, 12-5 here in June. Check back with me in August. I might go up or down. We'll see how August goes. But, yeah, I don't like the fact that they don't play any back-to-back home games. I mean, that's a weird thing. Like, you can't kind of settle in. You're on the road at seemingly every other week.
They want it to be hard. They want it to be hard somewhere. That day we get tired. I think we the most secretly hated team in sports. I don't know. It's the quarterback isn't good enough. We're not good enough. Last year, I said, I remember telling Cool K, I said, wait till after the bye week. Wait till just wait till after the bye week, and then we're gonna roll through the whole season. And that's what happened.
Yeah, 10 in a row, man. First Eagles team to win 10 straight games in a season. I mean, that was a phenomenal run.
It's good to come into the season, right? Not only are we the champions, we get to play the Cowboys the first game at home.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. That'll be fun.
Yeah, we get Chip Kelly. We get him back. We get Chip Kelly. I can't wait. I can't.
And speaking of which, before we let you go, Ed, my final question, and then we'll let you go. We appreciate you for stopping by. Week 1, Dallas Cowboys. Any thoughts? Any atmosphere? What's your thoughts on facing the Dallas Cowboys Week 1?
Well, I like it because it seems like a lot of these recent matchups against Dallas, guys have been injured. So you're not getting, the best of the best on each team. So here you're coming out of the chute. You hope both teams have healthy summers. The top talent is ready to go week 1. And then we see, mano a mano, the best against the best. And it's not late in the season. It's not the last game. Like, how many times have we seen that week 18 game has been kind of meaningless? Everything's already decided. So I love this opener just because it's the first game, and both teams are going to be at their best. They're going to want to prove something. And the Eagles are raising their banner. I mean, how exciting is that going to be? We've all joked Jerry Jones gets to see a championship banner raised for the first time in, 27 years, whatever, a long time. So, it's going to be electric. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be a really, really good game.
Yeah, it's going to be a real good one, man. It was having you, man. Your knowledge, your time, man. Thanks for stopping here on Blitz Take, man.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Let's hopefully we can do it again this summer sometime. Maybe once camp gets rolling.
No problem. Gotcha, thanks, Ed.
All right, guys. Peace.
Yep. So go ahead, leader. Before we wrap up, your thoughts on what we heard from Ed.
I'm remember when we was talking about the trades? I was like, man, you know how we talk, like, remember when Tyreek Hill came up, he was like, there go another trade where they just bring up a name. It's just like the Eagles are the wanted place for everybody. I think that's another thing. A lot of people want to go there because they wouldn't even always bring up these guys if people was downplaying the Eagles. The schedule, I'm sticking with 15-2. I respect anyone's 12-5. It's a respected schedule. we could still be 12-5 and get the championship. So it's
Mhm.
not like really. I just think we that type of team. And it was good. Good question about N'Kobe. That's a very asked question.
Yeah,
That's a
he
very
might. Yeah, because Simone and Trey said that he looks good, but as Ed said, and I think Cactus Mom said, N'Kobe will be a while rehabbing patella issues. Need time as they're dealing with tension, which don't heal quickly. You are absolutely right, Cactus Mom. So with that, he might not
Yep.
play. We'll see about Jahan Campbell, though. I love what I heard from Ed when it comes to Jalen freaking Hurts still being that dog. Still, I wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth, man. And thank God Ed was there. He said what I needed to hear.
Great about Hurts. You've been hearing great, like Jesus. I don't think he's incompleted like 2 passes or something like. I
Yeah, he
mean,
completed like 2 passes in camp. That's what I wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth because Ed is. I don't know if y'all know this, but Ed was at the facility when it comes to the practice for all he could say. So Ed was there at the NovaCare complex watching Jalen and watching all these players. So I love what I heard from Jalen. But go ahead. Any thoughts before we get ready to go?
No, to more continue on that. So Jahai Campbell, he was out there. I don't know, but you know the Eagles not going to rush. I didn't think
They're not
about
going to
that.
rush him. They ain't going to rush him. You're right.
Young player, they're going to go, and then it's good to hear about the cornerback part, like or the free agent part. They're not going to go after. They're not in a rush to get anybody. They're already set. Let's just keep this very clear. They're already set. They're already set. They have future players, but if it can make their team better.
In other words, what Ed is saying, what Ed I think is saying is, it's like Chauncey. I don't like bring him up, but it was like Chauncey. We got him and James Bradbury in training camp and before the season. I want y'all to remember that before the season even started in 2022, we got James Bradbury and we got Chauncey. I want y'all to remember that. So if it don't look well in training camp, in the eyes of Howie, Nick Sirianni, or Vic Fangio, then they're going to make a move. But go ahead, leader.
You got to go with the money part. Listen, they like CJ. CJ's a good player. But listen, this is what I'm talking about with Howie does. Howie makes the smart move, not the move he likes.
Yep.
Listen to that. He makes the smart move. He's good with the check. Good with the money. He's good with the money. He's good at that. That's a key point. He always stabilizes the salary cap to where we have money behind to sign the extra player, to make a trade. He's never behind. He's never, ever behind. So they're not going to go after a Jalen Ramsey or them like, for one, they don't need him. They're very confident. They're very confident in Keely. I wanted to hear that. I mean, I've heard about Keely, but I wanted to hear that from Ed. Now usually hit him up on the phone like, boom, look what's going on. No, he's telling you that this is the first time I'm hearing from him. They always talk good about Keely. And Sidney Brown has been a good player, but what we just heard was they like Makuba.
Yeah, they do.
They like Makuba. He's very high on their board. You look on the depth charts, he's behind Reed. Of course, it's going to be the depth chart's going to look how it looks now because everybody's going to get a battle chance. They want to see what everybody has, but they like Makuba. So this is it. If Brown comes there and wins it, Keely Ringo, they're pretty much really high on their cornerback position. They're just going to let him battle with everybody else. Mac McWilliams, who did Travis Hunter's, guarded him good in college. Very tough cornerback. It's good to hear that he's another guy that's all of a sudden right there and he says that he's getting some type of look. Wow. He's getting the praise.
Yeah.
Danny, what's the guy? It's another guy that's a receiver that's doing good also in OTAs. But his name is Danny. I forgot his name, man. He's a guy that came on the practice squad. He's doing good. So watch out. But Danny Gray's doing good. He's a receiver. He's doing good. 6'2", ran a 4.4 when he came out the combine. I didn't know they had him. But Keely Ringo, and just look at the safety position.
We talked about Keely Ringo on Broad Street. Like Smitty and Trey and myself said, can Keely Ringo be ready? Because remember, someone got to be next to Quinion, because Slay is gone. So,
and man, what I tell you, listen, when they drafted Keely, that's a steal. Everybody talking about Nolan. Do you know how hot Kelly Ringo came in for a visit with the Eagles? They were going to take him in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not talking about the number 10 pick. We talking about the 30th pick. They were looking at taking him already. The last pick, they got Nolan, which was surprised who they thought about taking at 10 if they didn't get Jalen Carter. But they got both of them. Look how that's crazy. But the biggest battle position, I was good to hear about the offensive line because I know that they're still moving. They're all big. That's good for Saquon.
Yep.
Big year. And then you're looking at Sidney Brown. I'm just more. And then he said something about seeing, not too much big stuff about seeing. So it's still going. But to hear the eyes are on Makuba is something big. Now Brown got to go in there and fight. He got to go in there and show them that he wants the job, or because they are looking at Makuba. They're looking at Makuba.
If Makuba balls out in training camp, which we will see because training camp will start July 22nd. So we're close. We're getting close to July 22nd because it's been reported and tickets is already on sale for open practice now. I already got my tickets. So
interesting battle. Y'all gonna be Xfinity. I'll be out there Xfinity. We probably gonna do something on the tailgate. I'm thinking about doing that. I'm really thinking about doing. Thinking about ribs. But man, listen. That's the number one. Listen, we leaving Blitz take. We're gonna say the number one position to look at the battle is the safety. That is it. Good to hear Ty Robinson doing good. Like I tell y'all, he had 7 sacks with Nebraska. He ran the fastest 40-yard dash. He's been getting Jalen Carter rave reviews, and it's confirmed. Yeah, I mean, he's looking good to everybody. Wow, how that defensive line gonna look when you put a Jomo with Robinson. Don't forget about I'm telling y'all, Byron Young is another guy on the defensive line. Right. That's another guy they got with Thomas Booker. Listen, they're young. These guys are going to be running. And like he said, these guys ain't got championships. They want to – you think they ain't coming in hungry? Think they ain't coming in hungry? They ain't got – everybody else next to them got rings. You think they don't want to join the crew? This is what makes this good. This is the best, most competitive offseason I've seen. You're coming in champions. You're young champions. Then you got a franchise quarterback. He's a young quarterback. You got young receivers. You got a superstar running back. Now you got guys they look up to like Hurts and Barkley and Brown. These are not just players that are good. These are guys that are top 3 best in their position. They're like Hall of Fame.
Not only that, they're top in merchandise according to NFLPA. Saquon Barkley #1, Jalen freaking Hurts #3 behind Patrick Mahomes.
So that's true.
Y'all don't understand what these two means to this city and this franchise. I cannot help you.
Great time. They said, matter of fact, what was also said, which that the Philadelphia Eagles are the most organized franchise in the NFL. That was said by that was said by everybody, like through everyone, all the from the Bleacher Report to the ESPN Sport News. The Eagles are the most organized franchise.
The gold standard, ladies and gentlemen. We are look at Debo. You see what Debo looking like in mandatory minicamp with the Commanders. You see what the Dallas Cowboys can't even pay Micah Parsons. You got a scrum with the New York Giants. Everybody in the building here in Philly. Nobody calling out or missing camp. Everybody in the building.
Why do y'all even want to get in the conversation with Eagle fans right now? Like that. Remember how y'all were so happy to say the rings in 2000? You had a ring? I'm sorry. You know what? I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop right now. I'm just saying, why do y'all get in conversations with it? The only reason I say that right now because what Emmitt Smith said. Like you had a legend come out. I'm a little appalled by that. Like you a champion. You should know what it feels like. You're talking like a loser.
It's all right. But with that, y'all, we appreciate y'all for listen. We will be on every Thursday, man. Now, the schedule for the season start stays the same. It's just Blitz Take Leader Edition will come Thursday. What time we doing it on Leader? What time we doing it?
Well, it's gonna be. Always try to get the schedule for the guest time. We had to get, Ed in it. Remember, we had to tell him the right time. So it'll be in between 12 and
Yeah.
no
I'm
later
talking
than
about
2. No later than 2. No later than 2. We're doing schedule between 12 and 2. You'll know way beforehand because I'm gonna, if I get a guest or what we gonna do, because I'll be working on it right after we leave the show. I'm working on who I want to get on here
Not a
next.
guest. I'm talking about you and me. I'm talking about you and me. 12 to 2, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like,
it's no guest, it's just you and me.
yeah, okay. I was just telling them because we don't know the Pacific time. Like today, we had to switch times, but it'll be like between 12 and 2. Like you said, just focus on 12 and 2. If there's no guests, we'll do this as early as 12. But the guests, usually some guests will say 1 or 2, but we'll do it like that. But every Thursday, me and Cool K to be here, new subjects. The next position we're going to talk about, no question, is going to be the secondary. We're going to talk about the secondary. A lot to do with I'm gonna go specifically with the cornerbacks this time because I want to do each position and just go like this enough. And then we'll see here. And the next listen, trade rumors are every day with the Eagles. It's like
news and updates and Eagles news and updates basically next week while we're talking the safety position. This episode was the start of the state of the Philadelphia Eagles, and thank God we had Ed to kick us off on that series. So salute to the leader for bringing them in here, man. Salute the leader, man.
That's my guy, man. Him and Keith Pompey, if y'all know Keith Pompey of the Sixers, those are my two mentors. I've been in this game 9.5 years, and those are the two guys that started me out on this, man. That told me what to do, told me how to go. So I've been kicking and running ever since. So we're going to make this as for all Eagle fans. We love y'all. Shout out to Alex Reich, Steve Roth, everybody on Birds on Broad Street, Simone Stanley. I know your birthday is coming. Man, that's crazy.
Her birthday's on the 5th, but we're celebrating early on the 4th. What a when we drop the banner, we're celebrating her birthday early that day. So make sure y'all tap in. What a birthday, man.
Yo, Simone gonna be insane. Yo, she gonna be the Eagle game.
Please. If the Eagles, when the Eagles pull this win out, what a birthday gift from my sister. But make sure y'all tap in for that. For leader, for your boy, fly Eagles fly, go Birds, and just remember, we are the leaders of Broad Street. Peace.
Gang, y'all.